I grew up out in South Auckland, Manadea. My parents were the same. Immigrant father who pushed me really hard, and I'd play a game of rugby and score 5 tries and do everything, play of the match, and he'd be like, oh, you should have done this better, should have done that better, should have done this. Nothing was ever quite good enough. My ability now to just try things that no one else will give a shot has allowed me to achieve so much. My mum is amazing, and we had a lot of love around us. At one point, she, after a pretty heavy drinking session with her family on Christmas Day, the next day I was lying in bed, hungover, and she just looked at me and she said, I don't want this. I'm not okay with it. This isn't who I am. I want so much more. There's so much more that you and I do that I want, and this isn't it. I don't want to be hungover with you drinking. I want more. So that planted a seed that gave us a reason, and then we just worked towards it. But that was the moment. It was the moment where I realized it doesn't matter how hard I try for someone else. I got to a point at 12 years, 15 years in, or whatever it was. Okay, I need to do this for myself now. To go to the next stage of my growth, I need to go out my own. She backed me. She knew I could do it. That was hard for me. I had to take a leap of faith, and I had to put on this front to my wife that, no, we can do this. I got this. And I think that's quite important for people to learn and understand, is that your worth isn't the thing that you do necessarily. So we talk about these 5 stages of attention, the book I'm writing at the moment. And it's based on my journey, but it's based on a lot of journeys I've seen people do.
Welcome to the Champion Mindset Collective podcast. Today, I'm joined by someone who knows a thing about grabbing attention, quite literally. Stanley Henry is the founder of and CEO of The Attention Seeker, a social media agency that has gone from humble beginnings to creating content for some of New Zealand's biggest brands. Stanley's story is one of resilience, reinvention, and taking bold risks. From growing up in South Auckland to spending 15 years in the hospitality industry, where he battled his own challenges, he eventually made a leap into entrepreneurship. What started out as a solo venture from a mate's spare bedroom has grown into a powerhouse team of 30 people with a massive goal of reaching 10 billion followers across their social media platforms. Today, we're diving into Stanley's journey and what it really takes to stand out in this digital world, the personal battles he overcame, and the lessons he's learned along the way. Stanley, welcome to the Champion Mindset Collective podcast.
Hi, thanks for having me. Great to be here. That's an intro. It makes you sound amazing.
Oh, well, you are amazing.
I should copy that and tell all my staff that.
Well, you are, to me, you are amazing, because every post I see on LinkedIn, and I see a lot of your posts, it really inspires me.
Oh, cool.
Right?
Thank you. Good.
And as an entrepreneur myself, on the beginning of my journey, I look up to people like you who have done the hard yards.
Yeah, good.
Right?
I'm glad.
Yeah.
Serving its purpose.
Yeah, you inspire each other, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Stanley, tell me about that journey from childhood.
Yeah.
We did have a chat in the podcast discovery call, but I'd like you to share your experiences with the audience around the journey that you went on, and with your family, all the challenges.
Yeah, absolutely. So I grew up out in South Auckland, Manadea. I was born and bred out south. I spent my whole life, went to school out there, went to Manadea Central Primary School, went off to Rosehill Intermediate College when I was out there. So I lived down in South Auckland. I didn't really know any different living out there. It's not until now when I look back and after I traveled around the world that I kind of realized the world I grew up in. We're obviously quite poor as a family, but I've been saying that a bit lately, and I realize it's probably the wrong word to use, because it sort of diminishes what my parents were able to do as well, in that they had a roof over our head. We always had a warm dinner to come home to. We had a full family at the dinner table every night, and I realized that isn't normal in a lot of people's homes, no matter the wealth that they have. So I probably need a new word other than poor, but we had financial struggles, mum and dad. Dad was a hustler. Dad was a serial entrepreneur, had a lot of booms and busts as his career went on. And it's probably where that entrepreneurial spirit sort of came from. But it was challenging. These days now that I have a team of people who, a good portion of them have come from quite privileged backgrounds, I realize how little we did really have. I talk about a joke the other day when we had a skateboard in the office and I popped an ollie, and everyone was like, oh, I can't believe you can pop an ollie on a skateboard. And they were a bit surprised that their big fat boss managed to do that. And then one of them oh, did you snowboard and stuff and ski when you were young too? And I was like, snowboarding? No, we didn't have snowboards. We didn't have snow. I was born in South Auckland and lucky to even have a skateboard. So look, we struggled in that we didn't have a lot of financial stuff, but I also want to make sure, like I've been saying this a lot recently, but it's not true. I wasn't poor. I was quite wealthy actually when it came to our relationships and our family. Every family has its problems, of course, but we did have a lot of financial struggles. What that also taught me is that, like, I think with Alex King, we were talking about my interview with her the other day, and we had a very similar background and upbringing, and that she had like quite demanding parents. My parents were the same. Immigrant father who like pushed me really hard, and I'd play a game of rugby and score 5 tries and do everything, play of the match, and he'd be like, "Oh, you should have done this better, should have done that better, should have done this." Nothing was ever quite good enough. And she had the same with her dad and the world that they came from, but she took an approach of like, I need to be perfect now every time I do something. And I came out of it going, doesn't really matter. Just give it a crack.
Yes.
No one's ever going to be happy with your result anyway, so just give it a crack. And that taught me a lot. Like that was huge for me. Like my ability now to just try things that no one else will give a shot has allowed me to like achieve so much. And so, that was my background. I had a real hard dad, immigrant father. My mum was amazing, is amazing. And we had a lot of love around us. We didn't have a lot of stuff I always wanted. I used to like cut out I'd get the farmers catalogs and cut out all the toys that I wanted and all the TVs and things and put on my like scrapbooks and stuff.
Vision board.
Yeah, exactly. And so, it was a lot of that growing up. So I didn't have a lot, but it definitely drove my behavior to today.
You know, it's interesting. Like as we get older, we lose that child's curiosity and having fun. We get so serious as we get older, right?
For sure.
And it's like we've got to get back to that childlike. You know, I was talking to David Neathy, who is one of New Zealand's top peak performance coaches, and he was saying, you know, imagine getting back to that childlike self where you're just curious about everything. And I see my daughter, for example, you know, she goes, "Oh, I want to do that." I go, "Give it a try.
Yeah.
Give it a go." You know? And so, So you spent 15 years in hospitality before making the leap into social media. What was that turning point for you? What made you go from something that you were so, like, obviously you got good at what you were doing to move something into social media?
Yeah, I think the real answer here is what was it that I was really good at in hospitality, right? And I think that's a question that a lot of people don't consider when they're going through their career. What are they actually good at? Because you could argue that I was very good at pouring wine and serving meals and taking orders and customer service and all that sort of stuff. But you could also argue that I was very good at business and leadership as well, because as a general manager and food and beverage directors and things like that, I had 200-300 staff that I had to manage. That's way bigger than the team I have now. I also had P&Ls to manage and budget for and make sure I'm spending right and be profitable. And those are all like core skills that you need as a good business owner and a good leader. I also didn't realize that I was also learning sales a lot of the way. I didn't realize that my ability to talk to people and negotiate with them and try to find the best outcome for both parties was actually just me learning how to negotiate and sell. And so I didn't realize that. So those sort of 3 core skills that I learned as I was going through my career are what I've been able to take and transfer to this new business. Am I the best content creator? Am I the best social media marketer? That's probably a firm no. But what I think I'm pretty good at is being able to lead a team the way that I do, being able to grow a business. Like I really understand the ins and outs of a P&L and how to grow a business and all the bits that come into that. And I think that's a skill that's underrated a lot of the time when people go out on their own. And also I found out that I was actually really good at sales. And so when I made the leap, the transition was less about like, oh, I want to do hotels and now I want to do social media. The actual leap came from I'd been building my brand on LinkedIn. I'd been posting, reaching out, connecting people, trying to do coffees every single day, 5 or 6 coffees with random strangers. It worked really well. I did it for 6 months straight from October 2019 till March 2020. And then this big event happened in March 2020 and I couldn't do it anymore, right? And I was locked down, stuck in this room. And then about 2 weeks after being in a room and everyone kind of realized, oh, we're here for a little while. This isn't finishing. People started reaching out and saying, Stan, you know that stuff you're doing on LinkedIn? Can you help us with that same thing? And because I understood business, I understood sales, and I understood leadership, I was like, I can do this. Of course I can do this.
Yeah.
I go hire the right people to help me deliver on it. I know how to build a business, and that is the easy part for me. And then I know how to negotiate the right fee structure so I can pay for these people to do the thing that I've just sold. So I don't have to do it because I'm not the guy to do it. So that's how that transition actually happened. And I think it's quite important for people to learn and understand is that your worth isn't the thing that you do necessarily. Like, you know, if you make cars, is it really making cars is the thing that you do? Like, what is the real core transferable skill? And I reckon there's only a handful of them, right?
Yeah.
Sales, leadership, business, there's probably a few others.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was the way I transitioned. And then the catalyst for it was COVID.
Yeah, and it's how you show up, right? And how you make people feel. Because you can do all the stuff, but if you don't make people feel the right way, then they're not going to come back to you, right? And with those coffees and the way you interacted with those people, you make them feel like, you know, because they saw you as an expert, right? And you made them feel optimistic and also confident. You know, they build that confidence and trust you and stuff, and respect for you as well.
Yeah.
Was there a moment where you knew that you had to go out on your own?
Yeah, there was. So I have always wanted, obviously, to own my own business. My dad was an entrepreneur. I really had that spark. I dabbled at different things. But the moment I wanted to give up my career and chase this, like go all in on it, my wife and I were in India at the time, in Jaipur, for a friend's wedding. And I woke up, I looked at my phone, and I had a bunch of emails from the owner of the hotel that I managed. He had copied in all my bosses from the hotel chain going, where is Stan? Like, he's not in the hotel. Like, he should be here. Can't believe he's taken leave. It's January. We're so busy. And the thing is that that particular January, I had set up the hotel so well that we actually delivered more profit in January than the hotel had ever made in revenue any year prior for the 30 years it had existed. And we're like, that's a huge difference, right? When I can deliver you more profit than you've even had in the bank account, come through the bank account in that month. So we were good. My bosses knew we were good. But at that time, I realized, like, I just delivered an outsized result for these owners. Nothing will ever be enough. It'll never be enough for them. And as an owner now, I understand their plight. Like, it's the same with my team, my private team, where look at me go, there's never enough, Stan. But at the time, I knew I wanted to be able to control that process.
Yeah.
And so it was literally that moment I rolled over to my now wife and I said to her, look, I'm going to quit. I'm over this. Like, I can't do this anymore. Like, I give everything to this hotel. I treat it like it's my own, and I'm not getting the same acknowledgement in return.
Yeah.
So we talked about it. We thought, okay, how can we do this? We didn't really know. And then literally the next morning, my brother messaged saying, hey, like to me and all my brothers, hey, Kaz and I are going out on our own as mortgage brokers. Like, if any of you ever want to work or come have a job with us, like, love to work with my brothers. And I said to him, I was like, oh, I don't know if I want to, but maybe there's an opportunity here. Like, let's have a chat. And then he said to me, he's like, mate, if you guys want to do it, like, even if it's just Claire or you or both of you, you guys can come live with us for a bit and come back to New Zealand. Also, so that planted seed, that gave us a reason. And then we just worked towards it. But that was the moment, like, it was the moment where I realized it doesn't matter how hard I try for someone else. As much as I loved my career, and don't get me wrong, I absolutely love my career. I got to a point at 12 years, 15 years in, or whatever it was. Okay, I need to do this for myself now. To go to the next stage of my growth, I need to go out my own.
Yeah, I totally understand that because like 30 years in technology and corporate and like 24 restructures and 4 redundancies, I got to a point in October last year where I just said to my girlfriend, I can't go back to another 9-to-5 job again.
No.
And I've got to back myself. I've got to do this for me because I don't want to be in my deathbed looking back and with regret and going, I didn't give myself a chance.
Yeah.
And so, and the other thing is like, it's how we identify ourselves. Often we keep going back to like, oh, this is how it was and we keep identifying with the past, but the past is gone. So really it's about who we are today and who do we want to be tomorrow and identifying with that person, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So hospitality is all about people and experiences. How has that shaped your approach in like content and marketing?
In content and marketing, I think I think the way that it shaped it is that I definitely have an ego. Don't get me wrong. I don't want people to think I don't have an ego. I have a big ego. But I also have a limited enough one that I'm okay for the rest of my team to be out in front. I think that when my team's out in front, it's a good reflection of me anyway, actually. Like, like we got Connor in the room with us at the moment, and if he's out there doing cool shit out in the world, I know that deep down, like, I'm part of that process, and I'm proud that he can do that and that people can see that. And same with Joni and all the other people who continuously push their brand. So because that world came from hospo, like it came from that, like you had, like, if you're wanting people to do a 16-hour shift with you, serving drunks and doing all the sorts of stuff that happens in hospo, you got to have their back. You got to have their back.
Absolutely.
If you want them to go out there and like die for you, like they've got to know you do it first for them. And I think when it comes to content, I realize that one of the funny things that happens in this world is that, like, I mean, you'd probably know in corporate, like, they don't want you out there outspoken. They don't want you telling the world about your journey. They want you to shut up and do your job and do your thing. So then I realized, like, so one, I've got an awesome opportunity here to do something that no one else is doing or wanting to do. And two, in social media, this is them doing a 16-hour shift with me. This is the equivalent. They're going out, putting themselves out there, talking about their career or their journey or whatever it is. They're in the trenches with me, doing this with me. This is that. In social media, this is that world. So it definitely shaped like the content that ended up coming out. And we get a lot of credit for people saying, I love how you guys have developed characters and whatnot in your show on Attention Seeker and all this. And it's like, yeah, I mean, we did. But actually, that's just us putting the people first.
Yeah.
And trying to create an environment where we enable that. One of our key unique differences as a team is we call it being an attention incubator. Sort of comes from the startup incubator model, where in a startup incubator, you surround the startup with all the necessary facilities and services that it needs and mentors to make sure it can grow. And we do the same from an attention perspective, that our team have all the resources and things around them that they need to grow and develop their brands.
Yeah.
And so I think that's how it's shaped our content side for sure. And it's allowed us to build a team of brands as opposed to just one brand that's trying to do all the heavy lifting. We now have a team of brands who can talk to all different audiences.
I love that because I was talking to someone just today, I think, or yesterday, saying in my organization, in my business, people that work with me, I don't want them just to have a job. I expect them that at least in 2 years' time that they go out and build their business.
Yep.
And then they contract back to me.
Yep.
Right. For me, it's about, so ego isn't a bad thing.
No.
It's only not good when the leader, it's all about them.
Yeah.
But I can clearly see on social media and here in person that you've got a community of people that are just like so enthusiastic and just sharing the vision that you have. Well, it's a collective vision, right?
Oh, yeah, 100%. Yeah. It was made by a team of us, not by me.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And because it's the team that make up the organization. And it's the same with this Champion Mindset Collective, is that we all build a champion mindset, and collectively we can change the world.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, for sure.
As we change our own world, we change the collective world. Yeah. So let's talk about going from the dark side of success, overcoming your personal challenges. You've openly spoken about alcohol being part of your life and hospitality career. What led you to quit in 2017?
Alcoholism was like definitely a big part of my life. It was part of growing up in the environment I did too, like everyone drunk and parties and things like that. And I was always around it, so it was just normal for me. I didn't see anything wrong with it, I suppose. So as I grew and I went into hospitality, it was like freely available and drank even more. And then I have a pretty like high risk sort of tolerance, like happy to like do pretty risky stuff. And so drinking did it too much and did a lot of dumb things. And then in 2017, so my now wife at the time, we were only about a year or so together, maybe 2. And we'd lived this life together, and she, like, you know, we're obviously in a real, like, we loved each other, but at one point, it was on Boxing Day, after a pretty heavy drinking session with her family on Christmas Day. The next day I was lying in bed, hungover, and she just looked at me and she said, I don't want this life. I don't want it. Like, I'm not okay with it. This isn't who I am. I want so much more. There's so much more that you and I do that I want, and this isn't it. I don't want to be hungover with you drinking. I want more. And so she just set me an ultimatum, like, you have to make a decision today. Is it me or the alcohol? Which one do you want? And, ultimately I chose her. And that day I just quit. That was the last, I never had a drink again for 12 months straight, 53 weeks. We had a bottle of champagne to celebrate our 12 months sobriety on the New Year's Eve of the following year. We had half a glass maybe, tipped it out, and we're like, this isn't even what we wanted. Then we probably didn't drink again for another 2 years.
Yeah.
And then we then introduced alcohol back for like celebrations and whatnot, just like occasional things with family and experiences. Had a lot of control over it at that point, realized that it wasn't something we needed. And probably in the last, then we went to New York and there was a lot of those moments. So the last 15 months probably drank the most we had in a long time. Got to the end of the second New York trip and we're like, okay, this isn't what we want. Like, we were never drunk. We never got back to that stage. We never abused it, but weight started to come back on because as you drink, you make other bad decisions about your health and that. And so, currently back to not drinking again. We made a commitment to go another 12 months nonstop. But to be honest, we're kind of at that stage of life now where we just probably won't do it again. There might be an occasional oh wow, we're in Tuscany. Let's have a glass of red as we sit and watch the sunset. Those sorts of moments where you want to enjoy it. Because we both enjoy wine. We enjoy the process of it. We enjoy the culture of it. But alcohol was just so damaging for me. And this business wouldn't exist if I drank because I didn't have the clarity or the motivation or the ambition to really drive. You talk about champion mindset. I didn't have one when I drank. You just don't. And yet I speak to a lot of people who drink a lot or just drink normal, actually, a normal, reasonable amount. And then they stop drinking. They're like, man, it's like a fog has been lifted, and you at first talk to them about oh, I didn't drink for a month once. Yeah, it didn't really change a lot. And it's nah, do it for 12.
12, yeah.
Do it for 12 months. Your whole life will change.
Absolutely.
Your whole life will change. And so for me, it was quite hard because I was a proper alcoholic. I drank every night, not because I wanted to, but because I needed to.
Yeah. And removing alcohol from your life, how did it change your mindset and your work ethic?
Work ethic wise, I've always been pretty similar in that. I'll do what I need to do. I've been like that. But mindset wise, I stopped grinding and I started thinking next big thing, if that makes sense. So rather than just going through the day to do the thing, I was thinking about okay, how do I 10x this? How do I fundamentally rethink the way I do something? Because I had the capacity to. I've always had a pretty strong work ethic. I don't mind doing long hours. I don't mind trying hard. I don't mind putting in the effort. I'm one of those kind of sick people who can just tell his mind to do what it says it's going to do and just get through it and push through. It didn't mean I could think bigger. I could only think, no, I've got all the stuff that has to be done. Go get it done. Once I stopped drinking, I was able to go, okay, get all that stuff done and then where to? Or is there just a better way to do this that I don't even have to do all this stuff? Can I just do something different? Can I just go this way instead? And that's where my mindset really changed. And that's when I started to go, I can actually just make my own business.
Yeah.
And I can take all the money.
Yeah. And it's been open to other possibilities, right? Often we're in life, we just say, oh, it's either this or that. And then we try and control situations in our lives. But if we just let it flow and trust that it's going to happen, right?
Yeah.
And I'm a living testament to the amount of times that I've been made redundant and I've been without income. But every single time I've just gone, you know what? I trust the universe. I trust that it's going to work out in the process. And right on the deadline, bang, it happens.
Yeah.
That's amazing that, you removed that alcohol, that thing that was kind of clouding your mind, your mindset and your work ethic. You had freedom to really be the best version of yourself.
Yeah.
And what advice would you give someone who's feeling stuck in unhealthy habits but is afraid to take that step and make a change in their life?
Yeah, I think that most people, I think for me, even now with different habits, it's what's the purpose for it? We often don't have enough purpose to really stick at something. Like I had Claire as my purpose. Like I wanted that relationship with her, and I wanted to maintain it and grow it and nurture it. And I knew that although alcohol was like a vice I had that was hard to stop, I knew that when the decision came, a beer or Claire, that was real easy. That binary decision was really simple. So I knew to just take it down to such a micro level that every time the opportunity for a drink comes up, I ask myself, okay, do I want this beer or this glass of wine, or do I want Claire? And that's a real simple question to answer because the purpose was so strong. So I think for a lot of people, like your purpose needs to be there. We got a guy in our team, Lee, who's lost an incredible amount of weight over the last maybe 8-9 months. And he was the same. He just had purpose. Like he had a reason for it. His relationship was also one of the big catalysts, but more importantly, like he really wants to be a father one day. And so he's like, I want to be able to run with my kids, and I'm 23 or something and fat and can barely touch my toes. Like, how am I going to do that? So he had this purpose, and he's done an incredible job and got to where he is. And whenever you see people with purpose like that, them making those big life-changing decisions is quite, I wouldn't say easy, but it's doable. You can see how they persevere with it, and when things are tough and it's hard, they can get back on the bike. And then my second advice to people doing it is just what I've learned in the past is don't do it all at once.
No.
Just do it step by step.
Step by step and consistent, yeah.
Take the biggest vice for me was alcohol. 3 or 4 months later, I started going to the gym again, lost a bunch of weight. Then I started doing other things. Then I started to read more. I started to learn more. Didn't try to do everything at once. And that's kind of my nature. It's like 0 or 100. I didn't, And so I had to know when I first stopped drinking, there's all these other things I wanted to stop or start, and they didn't really stay put. And I had to be like, no, just focus on the not drinking, because those cravings were still there. Yeah. So consistency, focus, and just have some real purpose for it. That's bigger than yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And in this environment that you have, and you've got a lot of young people here.
Yeah.
Do you see yourself as a kind of like a mentor and a coach that kind of guides them along as well? And
of course. Like my job as a leader.
Yeah.
I laugh because it's one of those hard things where the moment you have to tell someone you're not the thief, you're definitely the thief. So I always laugh. So you usually have a staff member in here, and you're like, yeah, I'm a mentor, and it's like, well, are you really? If you have to tell everyone that you are, but that's just why I laugh. But I think that as a head of a company, when you're the leader or the CEO or the founder, you have to play that part some way, or shape or form. What's interesting as the team's grown, far less of that for everyone, and only a few people I actually play that role for now. That's another reason why I laugh. I think my team might watch these podcasts and be like, no, I barely even talked to Stan this week. You know what I mean? Whereas some of the guys who report to me directly, or I have a close relationship with, or they've worked for me longer, for sure, play that mentor role. I'm the type of mentor that I'm not going to hold your hand through it. I'm going to provide you the opportunity, put you in place. I know when to come grab you if you're going to fall, but I'm going to let you go and make all the mistakes. And I'm not going to hold your hand. I'm not going to talk to you and console you and tell you it's all okay. I'm going to go, what do you want out of this? What's the goal here? Okay, let me provide you the opportunities where you can learn to grow that. And then ask them for trust. Do you trust that I'm going to do it? Up until this point, I've done it with you all along, so what's changed? Which is quite a hard thing because often, because that's not the only leadership style, it's not the only successful leadership style. Some leaders are much better at holding people's hands through the process. We've got a leader in our team, Dom, who's very much that. He's in head of client services, and he's very much a hand holder. But he's not an enabler, which is also important. He doesn't enable bad behavior or covers for them, but he definitely holds a hand through the process a lot more than I do. And I think those leadership styles, they're different for different people.
I guess people feel supported and they can go to him at any time if
exactly. And then for me, they kind of know they come to me and they'll just get questions or figure it out, and it's not that I don't necessarily think one's better or worse than the other.
I think they both add value. And
I think for me, it's having those other leadership styles in the business so they're available to everyone at different times when we need them.
So it's important for leaders to really be conscious about their staff and employees, because here's people coming to an environment and giving their all, and it's important to be felt appreciated. And I mean, I've spent countless years in corporate, and it's like you said before, they don't want someone who speaks out and or is a high performer. They just want people who do what they're told, right?
Yeah. So silly.
Let's talk about building the tension in Seeker, and from that spare bedroom, and then going to a team of 30. What was the hardest part of starting the business from scratch?
That's a good question, and I'm pausing on it because I look back at it now and I think, God, life was easy back then. It was so much simpler. But I think the hardest thing was I kind of lied to my wife a bit, because I said to her when she was like, "Can you afford the staff member you're hiring?" I was like, "Yeah, of course, this is why." But I was not really sure. And it was like very precarious, like I was like, yeah, I got one client who can pay for them, but if that client goes tomorrow, I've got no guarantee they're going to stay, and we'll be screwed. And I mean, she knows now the situation. She backed me. She knew I could do it, but I kind of, that was hard for me. Like I had to take a leap of faith, and I had to put on this front to my wife that no, we can do this. I got this, like here it is. Luckily it worked out, and I did work, but that was quite hard actually, because, I talked about this before. When you go from 1 staff to 2 staff, you got to double your business. But when you go from 30 staff to 31 staff, it's like a 3% increase. And so it's like a far different mindset that it takes. But also when you're at 30 staff, you got $250,000 payroll. And so per month. So that's also a very big pressure on you.
It is. Yeah.
The difference is that you lose one client and you might lose 3% of your revenue, maybe 1% of your revenue. You lose a client when you're 1 staff and you might have lost 70% of your revenue, 60, 50%. So the hardest part is that you're small, and with that size makes it hard. And also that I had to I wouldn't say, lie is probably a strong word, but I had to I had to be overly confident with my wife to be like, no, trust me, I got this. Like, we can afford this. And, credit to her, she trusted me, she backed me, she understood that I knew what I was doing, and that she knew I wouldn't give up.
Your wife, my girlfriend, they're there to test us, right? Yeah. They test us. And I don't know if you've ever read the book, The Way of the Superior Man.
No.
By David Dieter. I read that book. It's amazing. Changed my life.
Yeah.
And women are actually there to test you.
Yeah.
Right? Because they want to know that you're going to be a person of integrity.
Yeah.
When you say something, you're going to do something, right? And often my girlfriend will go, "Are you sure about doing that?"
Yeah.
And I'll be like, because I'm a big dreamer.
Yeah.
I dream big, but then they bring me back to reality and go, "Have you really worked it out?" Because I'm like, I just trust the universe. Everything's just going to work out.
Yeah. Dreamers. I know it.
I'm a huge dreamer.
Yeah.
So social media is a crowded space, right? There's so many people that, gosh, it's like people coming out of the woodwork, right? What made Attention Seeker stand out from the beginning? There's so many other social media companies out there, and it's so confusing for the entrepreneurs and the people content creators, because it's like everyone's telling you a different story.
Yeah. I mean, I think standing out at the beginning is probably a strong sentence. I think we didn't stand out, and that we're like any other small business that, I chipped away at it a little bit, and I evolved. And my brand was something different on LinkedIn that other people weren't doing, in that I was posting on LinkedIn about my journey that still no one does to the same level that I probably do, and the transparency I have with my posts. So it's definitely that, but that probably stood out for my little niche that I was growing. But I think what happened was that at the beginning, we had a very clear offer in terms of lead generation on LinkedIn. It was one thing. We only did one thing. It's very, very clear cut. When I didn't have a lot of trust in the marketplace, because no one knew who I was, they could understand the concept of what I did really easily. Okay, cool. So you're going to help me generate leads on LinkedIn for my business. Cool, got it. Real simple. It's X amount a month. Done. that allowed me to chip away at like clients and bring people on. And I did that through networking actually, rather than social media at first. I still obviously was building my brand online, but I was networking a lot as well. And that was where the trust was starting to be built.
Yeah.
That escalated to me being everywhere all the time. And the way I stood out differently to everyone else is that some people will do it for a little bit of time. They'll go real big for a bit. They'll make a splash. But I just didn't go away. And people are like, wait, where is this kid?
Why is
he still here?
He's showing up.
Yeah. Fucking sick as him on LinkedIn every fucking day.
How do I get rid of him?
Exactly, pretty much. And like when I started hearing people saying that, I was like, perfect.
Yeah,
I'm on the
got
right
attention.
track.
You got the
I'm
attention,
I'm in the right place. And then so in the beginning, when you ask like, how did we make a splash at the beginning? It was just like not going away. Just keep on pushing forward, keep putting out more content, keep going to all the networking events. Every time someone asks like, oh, you want to be on a podcast? Or, oh, you want to do this? Oh, you want to do that? Yep. Oh, can you speak? Yep. I can do anything you want me to do. I don't care. I'm building this. The only cost I have is my time. So just say, and I got lots of it. So I'll give it all to you. And then as time went on, we did the same thing. We just kept reinvesting in that brand and building it. And I think that where people in business, I think people they don't prioritize growth. They prioritize service delivery.
Yeah.
And service delivery is important because if you don't deliver for your clients, you're not going to achieve anything. Yeah. But I think that at that early stages, especially in social media, where, let's be honest, like it's a bit of a cowboy industry because do we really know what's happening? Meta changes its algorithm and then we all have to figure it out again.
Exactly.
But I think that when you're reinvesting in your capabilities and brand, you can at least sustain yourself long enough to hire enough people to build out like a pretty substantial team who can continue to try, push and deliver. Whereas a lot of brands that I worked with, a lot of the guys that I came up with at the beginning, like who started their companies, maybe had 1 or 2 staff, got a few clients, got too busy, stopped investing in brand, stopped growing. And then when things changed, they didn't have the capacity or the support to change with it. Their brand wasn't growing. They didn't have a consistent flow of new business. And are they still around? No, they're not still around. Our difference was that when we got new clients, I hired people to take care of the clients and I continued doing the content. When we jumped into TikTok, we hired someone to help us do that. We got Joni on board and blah, blah, blah. So we always had an internal team that kept separate and continue to grow it. So like I think for us, we've been made special because I just put so much effort into investing in brand. Yeah. It was way more than anyone else our size should realistically do. But I had to prove a point that it was the right move. Yeah. And it's worked out so far. Yeah.
And do you think that approach still stands? Like it still works?
Yeah.
About really networking and getting out there and
absolutely.
Yeah.
So we talk about like these 5 stages of attention that we're sort of trying to introduce in the book I'm writing at the moment. And it's based on my journey, but it's based on a lot of journeys I've seen people do, which is personal network is stage 1. You just know people. You get a lot of business in New Zealand will say, how do you get your business? Oh, referrals. Stage 1. Stage 2, really niche audience. So LinkedIn was one for me. Really specific business owners, business leaders on LinkedIn. Cool. Stage 1, build that. Stage 2. Stage 3 is where we start to go broad. That's where we went TikTok, Instagram, try to find the unknowns. We don't know who these clients are, so let's go after them. Stage 4 is when you start to build this like owned audience. And stage 5 is like kind of like where you put all the super famous people. They've done stuff for long enough, big enough that they've gotten there. None of those 5 stages do you have to progress through. You can just stay at stage 1. My brother has a mortgage advisor and he's at stage 1. He doesn't need anything, but he earns more profit than I do, I'll tell you that much. As a 4-man team, makes more profit than I do because he has a very, very strong network of people and that's all he does. He doesn't do any other marketing. He just networks the hell out of Auckland and knows everyone. And so I think for a lot of people when they're starting, especially in the professional services space, yes, marketing is important, but if you haven't tapped out the networking and saturated that, you're just leaving so much money on the table, like so much money. Yeah. Still today, the best form of new business for us is me speaking and then going to the networking event afterwards and meeting all the people I just spoke to. Yeah. And I will come away with 3 or 4 new clients every time.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. No, I agree with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. You've built a team of 30 over in 5 years.
Yeah.
And what's the biggest lesson in leadership for you in scaling your business?
I think the biggest lesson actually is that I've got so much more to learn.
Yeah.
I think like I feel like I'm a pretty good leader, but I also know that I've got so much more to go. Like I'm not even close to being like a great leader. You know what I mean? Like I know I'm good. I know I've got a team who respect me and that have my back and buy into the vision and all the things. But I also understand that like I'll be 50, look back now, or 60 and look back now and go, oh, you're an idiot. You know, the things that I know now, you had no clue back then. It's that old curse of knowledge, like that old idea of like, the more you know you don't know.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what it is with leadership.
Yeah.
So I'm constantly like having to check myself, like, you know, like I'll use Connor as an example because he's in here, but I'll like give him shit or something, or I'll do something. I'll do something to him. But then afterwards I'll be like, oh, fuck, you're a dick, Stan. Like, you know, that was a dick move. Like, you shouldn't do that. But I forget, like, I've grown, he's grown.
Yeah.
I need to develop as a leader. And I do with everyone in the team where I like have a moment and I'm like, oh, that's what the old Stan would have done. But like, you can't do that anymore. Like, you need to grow and develop past this. Like, yeah, it's fine. It's not like life-threatening or anything or detrimental to the business, but you need to be better than this because you know it didn't get you the outcome last time. So why'd you do it again?
Yeah.
I think that's been my biggest lesson.
It's being conscious of the things you do, right?
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah. And you know, at the top of every mountain, a peak is another mountain to climb. So if we're lifelong learners and we're just learning all the time, and as you mentioned before, is that there's a lot of leaders out there that under pressure struggle, right? And they throw the toys out of the car and start, you know, treating the employees, staff in a not a very nice way. And I've seen this firsthand.
Yeah.
And you end up with all these toxic environments and people start getting sick and all sorts of stuff that happens. But it's like if a leader is continually growing in his or her journey in life, because work is not separate from life, right? It's one.
Not at all. Yeah.
So you've got to look after both sides of it. And so I've seen a lot of leaders in huge organizations that really shouldn't be there.
Yeah.
Because they're not leaders, they're managers.
Yeah.
And yeah, you know, I've thought to myself going, I'm a far better leader than that person, you know. But like, it's like, yeah, we've just got to be, again, having that curiosity to be conscious and to learn and to see the patterns within ourselves and say, what am I doing that's either serving me or serving others or not?
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
And how can I be my best version?
Yeah.
And every day. And it's like, for me, like when I was in the corporate world, it's like every day I woke up and went, what difference am I going to make today? And that set me up for the day to say, everything I'm going to do today is it with my highest ability, but also for the betterment of everyone else that I interact with.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Social media is changing constantly.
Yep.
How do you keep up with the trends and staying authentic?
It's a good question. I mean, trends is a funny word that gets thrown around a lot now on social media, and I think I would beg the question of like, can anyone actually define what they mean when they say that? And I think if you heard everyone's response, it would be somewhat different. I think that's an interesting thing to think about, because then what do we mean when we say trends, right? And so I think what most people are trying to say is, where is social media? Where is it headed? What do we need to do to be successful on these platforms? Nothing has ever changed, ever. And that's the trick, is that nothing has changed in social media because nothing has changed in media, ever. It's always the same stories that are retold for millennia. You know, story structure and human storytelling is hardwired into us. Hardwired. Beginning, middle, end, set up conflict resolutions, 3-act structures, the hero's journey models, stuff like that. None of that has ever changed. You know, like if you read the book, I think it's John Campbell, The Hero of a Thousand Faces, and it talks about that hero's journey being like from the stories of Gilgamesh all the way through to the Marvel movies, everything all between it. That has never changed. 3-act structures have never changed. There's always been a real standard model, like most movies or plays or, verbal stories that we might have told, all these sorts of things, nursery rhymes, all this stuff, they're all content. Social media is just a new platform to distribute that content through. And so the best social media profiles just tell the best stories. And I think that is something people forget, and they forget about the story, and they're trying to go, okay, what's the new cool thing I can do that everyone else is doing? And then they copy. And then it's like, you can copy. Don't get me wrong. We do lots of everything's a remix. However, if it doesn't align with your brand or it doesn't align with the story you're trying to tell at a macro level, it's going to flop every time. And we get it wrong sometimes. Yeah. But the thing is that as long as you remember that like when social media, it doesn't matter if algorithms change, doesn't matter whatever. Probably the reason your video or your content's not doing well is because you've missed the story somehow. Yeah.
And why is storytelling so important?
Just like I said at the beginning, humans are hardwired to understand it. We understand story structure. It's just like, it's like how we can recognize a face in everything, right? You can look at the plug hole and see a face if you draw a little mouth underneath it, right? We see things that don't exist because we're pattern recognition machines. That's what humans are. Yeah. And we understand the patterns of storytelling. We understand what they're trying to do when we have beginning, middle, and end. Whenever you listen to someone who waffles on about something with no direction and no stuff in the middle, you know it's wrong.
Yeah. So for businesses that are struggling to gain traction online, what is one thing that they should focus on first?
Oh, just consistency every time. There is no business out there who's been consistent on social media for a long enough period of time that has not been successful. You would have to have something wrong. Like you'd have to have some challenges to not be able to see or learn from your efforts if you were putting out content daily on a platform for a couple of years to not have it be successful, or you'd have to have no direction. You're just doing it for the sake of doing it. But if but you asked what businesses, and if a business is doing it, they're doing it for business purpose. And if they're going out every single day trying, they will be successful. So consistency is like by far the number one. Like everything else, irrelevant. Consistency. If I was to say like another thing over top of that, they are quite consistent. What else could they do to be successful? It's the storytelling piece. It's like, are you telling a story that I care about? Yeah. Or are you telling a story that that only you do?
Yeah.
And that's the thing that most people miss. They're like, let me tell you a story. And it's actually all they've done is like, my car has 4 wheels and it has a steering wheel and it's amazing and you should buy it. And I was like, that's not a story.
Yeah.
That's not a story. You just read off a list of features.
You want connection to the motion and all that stuff, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about the aiming for the 10 billion followers. And that's a massive goal.
Yeah.
For some people it would be massive, but with your vision, you have the confidence that that's achievable.
Yeah.
Right? Because I know what that's like. I know I've got a vision, and I know that that's going to happen one day.
Yeah.
Right. What's your strategy behind it, and why 10 billion?
That was actually me and this fella who made it 10 billion instead of 1 billion. But we sat there going, "Oh, a billion, that sounds like a lot." And I think one of us said to the other one, "Wait, what is a billion? How do you get there? Do we think we can get 1,000 staff? Yeah, of course. Like, Vayner Media is 3,000. These other big agencies are 10,000. Okay, we can get 1,000. Do we think in 10 years we can know how to grow profiles to 1 million followers? Yeah, of course. Okay, so if we got all of our staff to get 1 million followers, there's 1 billion. Oh, that's too easy. Okay, make it 10 billion. And that was it. That was the discussion. That was how stupid it was.
Yeah.
Especially if you're just like, nah, make it 10. And everyone's like, oh, we can't do 10. That's insane. We're like, no. That's the point. And I think to answer your question, you talked firstly about, you're going to get there, right? That's what it is. For us, the vision's less about knowing we're going to get there and asking ourselves every day, is this thing we're doing going to move us closer to that goal? And are we still thinking about this the right way? Because to 10x or 100x or 1,000x our growth, we can't just do incremental changes. Like, it has to be absolutely completely changed.
Absolutely.
We have to think about it fundamentally in a different way. And so that's kind of what the goal more points to. It's like, are we thinking big enough? Are we thinking different enough? And it's a real good litmus test because we've tried a lot of different strands of the agency. say, for instance, we were thinking about doing like an influencer management part of the business, and we probably would have made a lot of money doing it. But at one point, we sort of sat there and were like, is it helping attention seeker get closer to 10 billion followers?
Yeah.
And the answer was no, it was helping these influencers do that. So we're like, okay, well, can it? It's not worth it.
No, because you're helping someone else.
How was that? Well, we weren't doing the thing we said we we're trying to do anymore. So then with the Dating Void, which is a show we created, we were like humming and hawing, should we stop this? And then at first it wasn't really growing very well. And then all of a sudden we got it right. Boom, took off 40,000 followers. And that is enough for us to go, yes, this costs us 15, 17 grand a month to produce, but it is getting us closer to that goal. So we can't quit it. Like, we actually can't quit it. As much as I want to stop the bleed, it's doing what we said we set out to do.
There's a market that's watching it, listening. Yeah.
And we found a niche. Let's go after it.
Yeah.
And so then we doubled down on it. Now we're taking it to Australia, you know, and trying to grow it even further. So 10 million followers, although, I think we could do it. I think that, like, if I'm aggressive enough and go after it, I could probably, like, some of it will come through acquisition. You know, you buy other media companies, buy other brands and all that sort of stuff. But at some point, I think it could be done.
Was it a million or a billion?
The first time? A billion.
A billion.
A billion was the first one,
Yeah.
which was 1,000 times a million.
Right.
1,000 staff, a million people, a million followers per staff.
Got it.
And then it was like, okay, let's make it 10 billion, which was outrageous, but also a good guiding light.
Yeah. I remember a few years ago, I'd never run in my life, well, apart from, like, you know, short runs and school and stuff. And I thought, I'm going to go and run in a half marathon. But not a half. I said, I'll do 5K. And my workmate said, oh, do a 10K. I'm like, yeah, I'll do a 10K. And I remember setting a goal like 2 months before of 1 hour, 10 minutes. Yeah. And I remember going and doing the Devonport circuit. First time, hour 26. Second one, hour 17. I'm like, this is possible.
Yeah.
On the day, I get to Torpedo Bay and look at my watch and I'm like, I can do this. And I did that run in 1 hour, 10 minutes and 10 seconds.
Oh, nice.
And I was like, wow, you know. Yeah. And so, often it's just, it's a mindset thing. It's like, you know, you can do a lot more than what you think you can. Yeah,
yeah, for sure. So, we always underestimate our
and your team
have
confidence in you, in the faith to be able to say,
they're just as crazy as I am.
A billion, let's do 10 billion. Yeah. Let's look at the bigger picture and the legacy and the impact and the future goals that you have. Looking back, what would you tell 2019 Stanley just starting out?
Look, I've been asked this question a few times. There's lots of things I would fix and change and do, but I also know that, like, I wouldn't be here today without those mistakes. But if I was to really say something, I would have been, I didn't realize how early I was in social media. I assumed I was late. Social media had been around for over a decade, right? So I assumed I was late to social media. So I just said, oh, well, I'll give it a crack and I'll see where I go. But I didn't realize actually I was early. I was real early in the scheme of things. And that I probably should have doubled down on TikTok straight away. I should have doubled down on LinkedIn. I was real early on LinkedIn. It was before anyone was using it the way it's used now. There was some influencers on LinkedIn, but they were like paid actors essentially, right? They were like the Richard Bransons of the world and stuff like that, where, they were big and famous. But what I found out later on in life is that LinkedIn like made that happen.
Wow.
LinkedIn pushed it to happen.
To grow their platform. Yeah.
And so then I realized, like, so now when I look at it, I was like, man, I was super, super early. I should have, if knowing what I know now, grow that a lot faster. So anyway, like, that's probably my biggest takeaways. What I would have said to myself is just double down on what you're doing now, but do it faster. Back then, you're super early, Stan. Yeah. But actually, in saying that, I'm pretty patient.
Yeah.
Like, although people see me growing pretty fast, I'm okay to take it slow.
Yeah. So what you just said about the influencers, right, growing their platforms. So is that what, do you think that's why Spotify paid Joe Rogan?
Oh, for sure.
To be able, so that Spotify is the number one.
Yeah, of course.
Platform, I guess.
Of course.
Yeah.
Well, you're trying to buy subscribers. It's no different to Prime getting Mr. Beast or House of Cards being on Netflix or whatever it might be. It's like the media brings the people.
Yeah.
The attention brings the people.
Yeah. So beyond the numbers and the growth, and what impact do you want to create in the world for attention seeker to have? Like, what impact do you want to create? What is that? What do you want people to, really connect with attention seeker?
I don't really care. This is an interesting question. Like, I really don't care. I don't care about the I want people to follow if they care.
Yeah.
And if they like it, cool. I don't really care what impact it makes. I want to be able to build a big thing. So I'm obviously making content that resonates with people and relates to them. But actually, like, if I think about the big profiles I watch, I don't really care about them. Like, I enjoy it. It's entertainment, but do I really care about them? I'm a bit of a, like, nihilist and realist and, like, do people really give a fuck about me? Do I want them to? No. They got their own lives. They don't need me. I just want people to have some fun.
Yeah.
Enjoy themselves. If we can do cool stuff together, let's do some cool shit together. I want to be able to provide a pipeline of clients for my team to grow and develop and build. But at the end of the day, like, look after yourself, look after your family, like why I'm not the answer to everyone's problems. I'm not going to be. I learned a long time ago, I can take the horse to the water, but like, they got to drink it themselves. So I can show, I said this on the last podcast I can show as many ponds to people as possible, but like, it's up to you.
Yeah, they got to take action.
If you don't take action, I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't care.
Yeah.
Do what you want.
Yeah.
I'll do what I want. Doesn't mean I don't care about the people around me and the people that follow, and doesn't mean I don't love all the audiences that we've built. But at the end of the day, like, you're your own man, you're your own woman, figure it out for yourself. I'm just going to show you some shit. If you like it and it's cool and you want to do cool stuff with us, then let's do it. And if not, cool, get on with your life. Like, you'll forget me tomorrow. Like, you forget everyone else. It's just a thing. So
I won't forget this interview.
No.
You're on my feed every day. So I'm always loving the posts. Seriously though, what's the highlights, would you say, like, leading up to this point? What are your highlights if you just go back and sort of pick a 2 or 3 highlights in your life?
Life or business? The life.
Well, life and business.
Honestly, like, these days, they all kind of outshadowed after my wedding. Like, after I had my wedding, like, it was all pretty, everything else was overshadowed. That's been like the coolest day of my life. And I know it sounds a bit soppy, but it's true. Like, this business was built to help support me and my wife and live the life that we want. And that's what its purpose was for, not for anything else. And so I reckon that's the only other highlight. My team know that that's like, she's my world. She's their other boss. Like, that, because I want to provide for her so well, I will try my hardest in this business to provide for them and do what we can for them. So there is a flow-on effect. But actually, the biggest highlight is just that. The highlight of the business is definitely like watching the team grow, like watching them develop, watching the connections being made. Seeing these young guys like grow up to be great leaders themselves. Yeah, that's like really inspiring. Like, it's the conversations I have with my family when they ask me about the business. Yeah, I don't really talk as often about the clients, but I talk about the team.
And what's next for you, personally and professionally?
Personally, look, the goal is to like try spend a bit more time on, I was a classic startup founder, put on lots of weight, stressed out, all that sort of stuff. So the goal is to get like back in touch with health. It's been a big thing, like running this year. Like, you talked about running, I just decided I'd run a half marathon the other weekend and did that, and just because I can, and that's kind of like my approach to it. Professionally, we got big goals this year. We want to triple the team.
Nice.
Over the next sort of 12 to 24 months. To do that, we're going to have to quadruple the revenue probably, because a lot of the new staff we bring on, a lot of them will have heavy price tags to come along with it. All of our guys will want bloody pay rises, so have to pay for those too.
After seeing your posts today, I have no doubt that you'll do it.
Yeah, it's the goal. Yeah.
And the team will cheer you on, and they're right behind you.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
we got to do all the work.
Yeah. All right, well, I've got six quick fire questions, and these you can answer in a word or a short sentence. How do you define success, and has that definition changed for you over time?
Look, if it's to do with business, success is revenue. If it's to do with life, success is time. Yeah.
Yeah. Who's been your greatest inspiration and why?
In business, probably Gary Vee.
Mm-hmm.
Probably because he shares a lot of similar philosophy I have. In life, definitely my wife. Like, she's made me the man I am today, and without her, I'd be a fucking drunk, fat drunk. Yeah.
What's something that you believe that others may disagree with?
Oh, mate, plenty. Fuck, what is it that they agree with me on? I think that's the answer, plenty. I think that's my strength.
Yeah.
They're all zigging and I'm zagging.
Mm. If you could go back and give young Stanley back in the day a bit of advice, what would it be?
Oh, you're a cool dude without drinking. Yeah.
What's one message that you'd like to share with the world?
Just give a shit for yourself. Whatever it is that you're going to do, give a shit. Try. Put some effort in.
Yeah. And last question, what does it mean to you to be a champion and to have a champion mindset?
In business, I think it's about being a good leader of people. I think champions don't win on their own.
Yeah. Yeah, we win together, right?
Yeah.
Hence it's called the collective.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Stanley, for a great conversation.
Yeah.
And your journey is inspiring, and overcoming your personal struggles, building what you've built today with the help of the people that are around you and your wife as well. Yeah. And it just shows that, when you take a chance on your life, when you back yourself, anything's possible, right?
Yeah.
And so for someone who's listening and wants to follow your journey or your model and learn more about Attention Seeker, where's the best place for them to find you?
Oh, just Google us. The Attention Seeker, probably the best place is to follow us on Instagram.
Yeah.
And myself, Stanley Henry, is probably best on LinkedIn.
Nice.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, awesome. Thanks again, Stanley. And
thanks for having me.
Yeah. And thank you, everyone, for tuning in to this podcast episode. And I'd love to encourage you to share this with someone who may benefit from listening to this episode. And if you haven't already done so, please follow and subscribe to this podcast so we can get it out to the wider world. And lastly, I just want to say, you are loved, you are worthy, champion your life, champion your greatness, and have an amazing day.